Welcome to this video. What I'm going to be tying for you today is the Easthope hackle. This is going to be tied on a spinning vise, but if you haven't got a spinning vise, don't worry about it. I will be talking to you about how you could achieve the same thing even if it's not on a spinning vise. Certainly a rotary vise would help you, but again, it's not the end of the world. You could use an AA vise. And there is actually another video where we go in quite a lot of detail as to how you can achieve the same thing at virtually the same sort of speed as you would be using this equipment, but that video is to follow. This is on this video, this is purely a Klinkhammer style hook. We're going to be using fly right dubbing. We're going to be using peacock herl for the thorax. The only thing we're not going to be doing is putting the post in, because obviously the Easthope hackle supports itself, and there's no actual need to have that in there. So we're going to start, the colour is irrelevant, but we're going to start with just a bit of dubbing. Now I could come all the way down and coat that. If you're doing your dubbing a different way, I would certainly suggest you probably do that, just to give yourself a bit of a base. The beauty of doing the dubbing the way I'm doing it is that I can create a very thin noodle, and it means that I can come down without the I'm just going to wait for that to catch. It wasn't wanting to play ball there for a second. Yeah, the reason that I'm not going to coat the hook with thread is because it doesn't need it. Obviously when the dubbing goes on, that's going to create enough friction that it doesn't move. It's the only thing on the body that's actually going on, so there's very little need for me to belt and braces that. I appreciate that you can't see exactly what's going on there. You can only see the first little bit. I've not done anything different in the first part to what I've done on the other possibly 8 inches of thread that I've done off screen, but it is all of the same thickness. It's not any thicker as I go on. I've tried to keep it as consistent as possible, and what that'll achieve is that I can come all the way in. I'm just going to go to the bottom of that hook down to when the bend is, touch and turns, and you'll notice that that dubbing is now starting to flatten. This would normally be the point we'd go in and we'd start spinning it up, but do you know what, if that's going to be the thinnest part of your body, if it's deciding to go flatter and it's really giving you that thin profile, allow it, and then you'll notice now it's all coming back again. It's becoming more tight against the thread just when we need it, and that's actually creating us a lovely profile on that body. Now if we come in again, we want to go back and then come in again, and we're there. A little loop of dubbing there which I'm just going to get rid of, and then we're good. Then come in with the peacock herl. Now the peacock herl I do want to speak about. Obviously if I address it on this video I don't have to address it on the others, but this is an extremely thick part of the fibre. This is an extremely thin part of the fibre. Okay, now if you try and twist something that has got that much difference between its thickness, the thinner part is going to twist an awful lot more, and of course the thicker part isn't going to twist at all. So if you take the thin part as a number 1 and you take the thicker part as a thickness of 9, you can imagine if we then double those up like that, what you've then got is a 1 next to a 9 and another 1 next to another 9. What it also means is in the middle where I've created that fold, what we've got is what we would assume would be 2 5s, which also adds up to 10. So what you're seeing very quickly is that the thickness through there, you can use the formula all the way along here, and as one gets thicker, obviously the other one gets thinner, and that's what we're talking about there. So we've got all the way along here, whatever numbers we use, they're going to add up to 10. That is important because it will make those fibres behave like it was a synthetic fibre that was consistent all the way along. And I'll just explain to you what I mean by that. Once I've dropped that save point in there, I'm going to take what I've done here, because it is out of shot. You can see my fingertip there and my thumb, and all I'm doing is gripping the thread and the hackles, the fibres at the same time, and I'm pulling both tight. As they're tight, you see, when I twist them, it makes this lovely brush. And you can see it is getting shorter because obviously the twist is going to bring my fingers closer to the hook. Once we're at a point where if I give that a little bit of slack, see how it's doubling up on itself? That is the perfect time to then start applying that to the hook. Now you'll notice there that we've got a little split. If I just bring that down so that you can see it just by the finger, it really doesn't matter because it's still got that twist in it. Now if I bring that down and then bring that up, it's one of those things I'm not going to get bent out of shape with. It's not ideal, but it certainly hasn't had too much of an effect on the presentation of that fly. So I'm just going to come in with my scissors, snip those extra bits off. The profile is still good, I'm still happy with it. Right there. Right. The next thing I need to do is bounce straight into this hackle that I'm going to use. Now, because it's a size 10, it is an extremely large hackle. Bearing in mind that these hooks obviously, because it's a Daiichi 1160, they're not true to your normal sizes anyway, so it is a wee bit bigger generally. So I've tied my hackle in there. This is saddle hackle. This method that I'm going to do on here needs a saddle hackle. You would need to possibly wrap it manually if you were using a neck hackle. There is another method which I'll show you on another video where you can do touch and turns, rotating a vise, but that's a wee bit more complex than what we're looking to do at the moment. I'm giving myself between 1.5 and 2 inches of thread, and you can probably just see the thread behind those fibres, and I'm making sure that they're both sitting parallel to each other and they're both tight, and then it's just a case of letting those hackles spin. Okay, once I've got it to the point again where these bounce, where they're just nice and tight, I'll just give it a little bit more. That's the point I can raise it up, and what I'm going to do at this point, I've twisted it. Now remembering that we've got 3 stages to this hackle. There's the twist, there's the condense, and there's the fold. So now it's the condense that I need to do, and all it is quite literally is taking that from the top, pinching it at the top and then pulling it all the way down, letting it just condense itself onto a smaller amount of thread. And that's all it is. That's that stage done. So once that's done, then we're just going to comb these fibres. Make sure that they sit exactly where we want them to. Now you'll notice I've pinched that. This is going to be a little bit difficult for me to get all on camera, but what I want to make sure we do is put that thread wrap exactly where the last thread wraps were. We don't want to put any more disruption into that peacock hill, so it's really important that the thread wraps go over the top of the last ones. Now all I'm going to do is come through round the bottom and pull. There was a tiny little gap when that bent over. There was a tiny little gap of about that was sitting on the shank, and of course all we've done by putting the by putting the thread around the base is we've pulled that one and pulled it together just like that. Yeah, so that's what it's created. Of course, from there it's just pulled it together, pulled one side next to the other one and splayed it out, and that's why I've now got nothing else to do to that hackle, because that splaying technique has done it all for me. If I move this up here, and you'll notice I'm just moving the fibres out of the way, and I'm going to stick in a number of tie-offs. In fact, I'm going to use the whip finisher on this, just to try and avoid catching too many of those fibres in. Right, we're there then, and then that comes in and locks off. Now, normally I would put 2 in, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. This fly is no exception. And put that bit right in the corner, and away we go. And then that is now that nice and secure and nicely tied off, and I can show you what that needs to look like from the different angles. So from the top, what we actually want is a nice circular shape, which is exactly what you've got there. Nice circular shape. That sorted itself out. I haven't made that do that. I haven't had to move or manipulate any of the fibres to get that. It's just how that sits. But from the side, what you actually want is more of a dome shape. Now, I don't know if you've noticed that, but we've actually got it going all the way at the top and all the way down. And the idea of that is if it lands on the water, those points of those fibres are going to hit the water, and then of course they're not going to be able to stabilise the fly by themselves, and it's just going to roll, and it's going to continue to roll until you hit that flat spot there at the underneath of the hackle, and that's how it's going to sit in the water. That is the idea of the Easthope hackle. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.